To introduce myself. My name is Faith Taff, and I am a parent leader and co-chair for Childcare for Connecticut. Thank you so much again for your time and for giving me grace tonight. Next, there is a poll to find out what brings everyone here today. So before we start, we're going to launch the poll to see who's in the room. It should pop up on your screen, and just please feel free to click as we continue the meeting. So again, welcome parents and providers. Childcare for Connecticut is a coalition of parents and providers and advocates working to transform childcare in Connecticut. We are so happy to be here together tonight. We have winter recess and will not be meeting in January in observance of holidays, but we will be back in February, so don't worry, don't fret, to prepare for the session. Save the date for Early Care Connection on February 2nd. It will host legislators, national partner prenatal to 5 strategies, and organizers from New Mexico focusing on the true cost of care. Check out childcareforconnecticut.org for more details. All right. I do not see the poll.
I can launch the let's get to know each other one. So it has the who are you one, so I'll just launch that really quickly.
Okay.
So everyone should get it right now. I'll give everyone about like 30 seconds to a minute.
Thank you, Danny.
No problem.
Hello, Gardine. Hi. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Alex, for coming. Felicia, Sophia. Hello. We have a parent, Minal, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing your names wrong.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Parent ambassador from Hartford, Ritu. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, it popped up. Okay, so we have a lot of early educators and also a lot of advocates. We've got some parents in the room. We have a couple elected officials and then some others. So again, thank you everyone for coming. We got a decent turnout tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time to come tonight. So next up, we have ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union speakers, Ming Ki Chu and Whitney Pesic in the space. We are very fortunate that both organizations are ensuring that early care and education is a priority, nationally at the White House and in our nation's capital. I want to thank them for their commitment to childcare, and now I'm going to turn it over to Ming and Whitney, and I'm going to turn the lights back on in my room, in my office.
Thank you, Faith. And thank you so much for having us. My name is Ming Chu. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Director of the Women's Rights Project at the ACLU. And while I would love to claim Whitney as one of our own, Whitney is actually with the National Women's Law Center. And I'll let her introduce herself when during her portion of our discussion. And so thank you again for having us. It's lovely to be in space with you all. And I think so we're here to talk about our federal administrative challenge to the attacks that the Trump administration has made on the Head Start program and how we are defending Head Start, both in the litigation and then in connection with advocates and advancing the advocacy agenda as well. So I will start with the lawsuit. So in our lawsuit, we represent a group of both providers and parents. So we represent 4 state Head Start associations and 2 parent groups, Family Forward Oregon and Parent Voices Oakland. And we filed a lawsuit in April in the Western District of Washington. So that is in the Seattle area. And we are challenging 3 main attacks on the Head Start program. So the first is the administration's ban on quote unquote DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And that was implemented in multiple ways, starting in March of this year. So there was a guidance letter to providers saying that everybody had to stop doing DEIA. There was also contract language in new grant awards saying that you had to stop doing DEIA. It caused enormous confusion about what was included in prohibited activities. And, in addition to revamping people's websites, revamping grant applications, there were also really fundamental questions of, am I allowed to continue doing or having a Spanish immersion program? Am I allowed to keep on having selection criteria that prioritizes families with limited English proficiency? And so that's the first set of claims that we have. The second is a challenge to the hollowing out of the Office of Head Start. So as many of you know, in April, 60% of the Office of Head Start was abruptly fired. And over half of the regional offices were closed. And so this meant that overnight, half the programs in the country lost contact with their primary point of contact within HHS. And the way, I don't have to tell you, the way that Head Start programs are set up is that these points of contact between OHS and programs is so important because you need OHS approval or guidance for so many things, both for grants, knowing if your grant is coming through, and for approvals for infrastructural changes, for key hires, really just core operational tasks. And so by firing half the staff abruptly with no transition plan whatsoever, this really hindered the ability of Head Start programs to continue to function. And indeed, we saw a couple close their doors, at least temporarily. And then the third main action that the lawsuit challenges is what we are calling the Immigrant Exclusion Directive that was issued in July of this year. So that was a change in policy from HHS, making enrollment in Head Start dependent for the first time on immigration status. So basically, under the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunities Reconciliation Act, what I will just call the Welfare Reform Act, there are certain benefits programs that are restricted based on immigration status. And for the first time in history, HHS interpreted Head Start to be one of those programs. And so that changed eligibility criteria for Head Start and immediately led to a decline in enrollment for our client providers, including families that remained eligible even under the new rules, just because of the fear and the confusion that rule created. So as an update about what has happened since, I'll go then now in reverse order. So happily for the Immigrant Exclusion Directive, we got that enjoined in September, and so we filed immediately after it was issued, had an emergency hearing, and then the court ordered HHS to not implement or enforce the Immigrant Exclusion Directive in any way. And so that has been true since September 11th, just 2 months ago. And so we just learned that the administration is not going to appeal that decision. And so that injunction, so that court order saying, HHS, you can't do this, you cannot make Head Start dependent on immigration status, that court order is remaining in effect indefinitely. So that is great news. On our motion for preliminary injunction with respect to the DEIA ban and the mass cuts, that is still pending before the court. I mean, this is an unusually long time for a court to sit on a motion like this. But I can update you that most recently we filed a new motion to ask to submit additional evidence to the court to consider based on primarily an email that one of our providers received from an HHS employee, that this was in the context of a grant renewal application, which is an annual application that providers have to submit in order to get continued funding. And the HHS official, the HHS employee, told told the provider that it was not allowed to use any of the words on a 200-word list. And some of the words on this list, it's truly as terrifying as it is absurd. So we sent slides over this, we covered this in a much longer presentation. So there are a lot of slides, but in the slide deck that we sent over that can be distributed to this group, you'll see the full list. I mean, it includes words that are clearly targeted at some of the core constituencies that Head Start serves. So disability, tribal, Native American, Black, Latinx, even women and female. So truly an astoundingly broad ban that directly contradicts what the administration has been saying in this case, which is telling the judge, don't worry about the DEIA ban. It's not a big deal. It's not that broad. It doesn't do that much. And here we see the administration clearly holding hostage grant funds in order to force providers to comply with the ban. So I'll pause there. I do want to share actually one other important perspective from this that is relevant to this group, which is really the role of our plaintiffs. So other than having technically to have a plaintiff to be able to sue, the plaintiffs in our case, the providers and parents, really helped us tell the story of what an incredible program Head Start is and how much it means to families. And for the parent plaintiffs in particular, they uplifted the voices of parents and caregivers, and the value of Head Start for children. I mean, just incredible results that we've seen, improvements in educational, social, emotional, and health outcomes. And for parents, the fact that their kids are at Head Start means that they can go to work and go to school. And so I think that we hope came across powerfully to the judge. So with that, I'll pass it over to Whitney. So as I mentioned, the lawsuit is sort of part of a broader advocacy push to protect Head Start. And Whitney and I have been working together with other advocates.
Thank you so much, Ming, and thank you all so much for having us. My name is Whitney Pesic. I'm the Senior Director of Federal Child Care Policy at the National Women's Law Center. And I am a former early Head Start teacher, so this is an issue that is very near and dear to my heart. And I really appreciated the opportunity to work with Ming and the ACLU on this case. And so, as it may be clear, the ACLU, when they are looking for plaintiffs, need either actual, Head Start associations or organizations that represent parents. And needless to say, the National Women's Law Center is neither of those things, but we really wanted to help with this effort, especially given the kind of mixed messages about what action is needed in this time during these attacks on Head Start. And so we were happy to join the ACLU to help co-convene a coalition of advocacy partners to ensure that we are sharing the most up-to-date information, crowdsourcing expertise and resources, really sharing that cohesive messaging, as well as holding webinars for various stakeholders to ensure that they're up to date on the latest of what's happening and ways to plug in. Another way that the National Women's Law Center has been engaged is we are working with the Child Care Law Center in California, as well as the Seattle University law school's legal clinic on in what's called an amicus brief, which is a document that's filed by an organization or stakeholder that has a stake in the outcome of the litigation, but is not in a position to be a plaintiff. And so the Law Center was excited to be able to build on the great arguments that Ming and the ACLU folks made in their litigation about how there's a real gender justice implication in these changes to Head Start. And so we're working with those other organizations to develop a comprehensive document, really laying out the gender equity concerns with these changes to the Head Start program and what that would mean for women and girls, both as participants in Head Start, but also as early educators and as parts of the larger community, because we know that Head Start not only serves the families that are enrolled, but really is a critical piece of infrastructure for entire communities. And so, with that being said, if folks are interested in ways to support this effort, I'll happy to put my email in the chat. And I know that I think the folks are going to share, as Ming mentioned, a fuller slide deck kind of laying out more details about the litigation and some resources. But we really appreciate your interest in this and being invited to this space. Because I know there's a lot of different, strategies and ideas about, how Head Start should respond to these attacks from the administration. So we appreciate the opportunity to share kind of our vantage point. And I'm happy to stop there so we have plenty of time for any questions folks might have. Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you, Ming. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much. Please, if anybody could post your questions either in the Q&A or the chat, I have both open for review. And it looks like Whitney has posted her email address or website here in the chat for everyone. And again, please either post in the Q&A or the chat. I have both open for questions. Also, a slide is going to be posted that shows the words you can't use, and it'll be shared as well.
Yeah, so you can really see how astoundingly broad this ban is. I think what is on this page is like one of six.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a lot of words. Is there any questions for Ming? Any questions for Whitney while we still have them on for a couple more minutes?
I just have a question about the child care partnerships. So the non-direct, the way that funding flows are the same, they impacting them in the same way. So someone who receives early Head Start dollars who has a sub-grantee.
I'm sorry, Ming, do you have an answer?
Yeah, so someone who so I think it just depends on who the signatory on the notice of award is. But they would my understanding is that they would be responsible for the activities of their sub-grantee. So like for states, for example, like state programs, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it just as a sub-grantee, we're not getting any of the documentation. So I'm wondering if that's true for other sub-grantees and how we're sort of tracking that.
We have a hand raised for Ava.
Thank you. I was curious. I know none of us have a crystal ball, and things are getting scarier on the federal level. I feel like by the hour, literally by the hour. If you had to do some prediction of how much worse it would get for 2026 with lawsuits or with I know that we're flat funded. What do you think the trajectory, or what might we be going to with the administration? Is there appetite for completely dissolving all subsidy funding and programs and the block grants? And yeah, I don't, I know it's such a vague or broad question, but properly planning is part of what we do as an advocacy coalition. And it's really hard to plan and prepare when there's so much unknown. And of course, I wanted to say thank you to both of you for taking the time out to be here.
Yeah, Whitney, I don't know if you want to go for it. So I guess
Sure.
I'll just say, yeah, go ahead.
So we are operating on fiscal year 24 appropriations because Congress has not done their job, and they just did a continuing resolution for fiscal year 25. They're currently right now discussing fiscal year 26. We are still urging members of Congress to adopt the Senate version of the labor HHS appropriations funding bill, because it does have an $85 million increase for Head Start as well as CCDBG. But unfortunately, we know that that still is not nearly enough to cover even inflation, let alone expand the program. But we still remain hopeful that Congress will at least pass that bill, so we're not operating on fiscal year 24 numbers. And regarding like the crystal ball of whether, they're working to eliminate the program, I mean, the Trump administration did propose eliminating the program in their initial proposed budget. But due to advocates like you all and all the noise that was made, they ultimately walked that back and did not eliminate the program in their proposed budget. And the House of Congress also just flat funded the program and didn't eliminate it. So I remain hopeful that, full elimination hopefully is no longer on the table. But I think, we're seeing that they are attacking the program in other ways, as Ming discussed, whether it be, firing the staff, closing the regional offices, trying to scare immigrant families from accessing the program. And we also have gotten intel that the administration is going to propose a notice of proposed rulemaking that will likely at least roll back the Biden era rule on Head Start that was really focused on supporting the Head Start workforce. And there could be other things that notice of proposed rulemaking. We'll be sure to share with Eva and the group as soon as that's made public. And on another topic, we're also anticipating a notice of proposed rulemaking on CCDBG as well. And we anticipate that that also will be rolling back the Biden era rule on CCDBG that capped parent co-payments at 7%, as well as other pieces. So I think, we definitely are not safe by any means yet, and we're going to have to stay ready for whatever might happen in 2026. But if 2025 taught us anything, it's that the Head Start advocacy community is very strong and loud and powerful and really gets things done. And I just really appreciate all that, folks like you have done to make Head Start untouchable in many ways. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you for answering the question. And for those who heard CCDBG, those are block grants, and that's the federal fund of money that goes to pay for subsidy programs like Head Start, like Care for Kids, and it funds a very big portion of those programs. So the feds pull their funding from those block grants, then the states would have to make up the rest. And that's hundreds of millions of dollars that we just don't have. Thank you. Back to you, Faith.
Well, thank you again, Whitney. I know that you folks were going to try to be out of here by 7. Do you have time for a couple more questions?
I can stay on for one more, but I
Okay.
don't have any.
So we had a Dysmania who asked, when are they going to open more space for Head Start?
Um, I mean, unfortunately, I think, we're not in a political environment right now where that's something that our Republican majority Senate and House are exploring, unfortunately. We're really hopeful that maybe in future years we'll be able to kind of dream bigger for Head Start. But right now, we're trying to protect what we have.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for presenting to us tonight and giving us a couple extra minutes of your time. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much.
Y'all take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye. Good night. So, if you do have more questions, you can obviously put them in the chat and we can try to forward them over to Whitney or Ming and maybe get answers for you after. So, again, please feel free to keep asking questions if you do have any. Next, I would like to give a warm welcome to Liam Sweeney and Natalie Diaz, our lobbyists from Penn Lincoln. Thank you so much for being here and being awesome at your job, making our legislative victories possible this year. Liam and Natalie, take it away.
Well, thank you for that introduction. We'll have you do this more often for us. Well, first off, I just want to say, and I'll let Natalie also say hello to one, just how grateful we are to be able to partner with you all and have been a part of this amazing this past session. But I don't know if Natalie just want to say hello.
Hi, everyone. And I agree with what Liam said.
So, what I'll do is I'll just kind of I will start with just kind of a review of kind of what happened last year. I mean, I think you guys know a lot about it, but I think we should all get our flowers when good things happen, as because after that presentation on the federal level, we need some positivity. Um, so last year, as everyone knows, I think we kind of came into the session optimistic about this being a significant year for childcare. I don't think that on going into the session, probably around November or so when we started planning that we knew that this was going to be the year that this was going to happen. But I think due to the great leadership and spectacular work of Eva and Danny and the team, the conversation started early with the Speaker of the House, Matt Ritter, and he really kind of lit this on fire and was like, "We're doing this." And then the governor joined the bandwagon, and he too also wanted to do something. Was less clear of what exactly that was going to be, but what we ended up with was two bills that were, basically one, but were significantly comprehensive in what they did. And I'll just briefly go over what they were. I mean, first starting with Senate Bill 1, which was so both of these bills were basically separated for, I think, flow and timing of the session. So one was a Senate bill, one was a House bill, and they kind of came together as they were adopted. But they did two different pieces of the overall idea. So one, something that we had been pushing was creating a fund that would help childcare. So what happened in Senate Bill 1 was the creation of the Early Childcare Education Endowment, which is going to be seeded with $300 million. In that in that bill, it also funds the aim and create the approximately of 16,000 new infant seats. We'll see how that translates over time. I think there's a lot to be determined on how quickly these seats become available. I think that is the huge piece of what needed to be done. So the creation of the endowment, a fund that can now, trickle down into the early child care providers and create these seats. while 300 million was not the number that we were initially talking about, because I think everyone on this call knows that in order to kind of fulfill this goal of universal, you know, birth to three or birth to five care, it will require significantly more money than that. However, that is the number that the leaders came to an agreement on. So that's what was appropriated this year for to start that fund. Um, and this is where Senate House Bill 5003 also connects to that, where that authorizes the transfer of up to $100 million each year of unappropriated funds to go into this fund. So to continue this down payment on the endowment that collects interest and grows over time. Um, it, the other key piece of that we had talked about is providing health insurance for the workforce. There are mechanisms to allow for subsidies and health savings accounts and high deductible plans for those in this space. A lot of that is still kind of being figured out of how that's going to be actually rolled out. But one of the other big pieces that this group really pushed on was the creation of this portal that I think has been long desired by this folks here to help with simplifying the process of childcare. So while that is not established yet, there were a lot of details to how that would be set up that Eva testified on and pushed for. And this all started with a conversation. I think Alex and Eva and myself were all present with the governor and the former commissioner of early child care, Beth Bai. And this all started from that conversation, and I think we kind of set the bar pretty high. We explained to the governor that $300 million isn't going to quite cover it, and I think what we got was an agreement to put more money into the fund over time, which I think is helpful. While it's not going to fix the issue overnight, I think that is a key piece to seeing this expand. We could see them change that over time. But I think those are kind of the big pieces. And obviously, one of the other key pieces was changing the Care for Kids eligibility, as well as putting in the income require or income allowance for being able to access the free childcare that it comes through this new endowment program. So what we had, and I think Eva you can take credit for this too, as well, as that capping the costs for parents at 7% was something that we led with. I think a lot of folks were concerned of how we would get there, but it was great to see how the advocacy of the folks on this call really kind of moved that building so substantially on income requirements, on expanding kind of like what does that look like, trying to explain to folks. And what we saw here was, we did have bipartisan support on some of these proposals, right? And I think that was big because everyone understands the issues that are dealing with childcare. I myself was just rushing here from picking up three different kids at three different places tonight, and it impacts everyone. And so just I can't say how proud we were as a firm to be a part of the magic that you guys brought into that building every day. It was really amazing to see the doors open for everyone here. I mean, how many days you guys were in the hallways with the shirts, and people taking the time off of work, and a few Saturdays as well, as I recall. But it was really great to see and be a part of this getting over the finish line. And really, without the folks on this call, that would have not happened. I mean, to have such a substantial piece of legislation move so quickly and with the amount of money attached to it, and while we might be poo-pooing that $300 million is not enough, it in that building, that is a enormous amount of money to move in one session. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version. I wish I had pictures to throw in here as a slideshow because it really was kind of a movie to be a part of. But we met with everyone from the governor to the speaker, the Senate president, the majority leaders, the minority leaders, to rank and file members of the legislature, and it was really just an amazing work. So, and that's kind of the session and recap. There was, as I think a lot of you know, a special session that just happened. I think one of the big things that was dominating the news was on housing. Uh, Natalie and I also work in the housing, the affordable housing space. So we were happy to see, some of the big pieces of that bill get done. While there's still a lot to be implemented on that. I know there's such an overlap between childcare and housing affordability. So it was great to see the governor and legislature to come to an agreement on that. And then there were a couple other smaller pieces in the special session, but I think the one that we should all be watching, very carefully, is the budget reserve fund, basically, that was created of up to $500 million to offset any federal funding reductions. Obviously, a lot of folks here saw firsthand what was happening with the lack of funding for SNAP that was coming from the federal government. The fascinating thing is that this was all to prevent any issues that were coming from the government shutdown. But I think as soon as the governor basically signed this special act, Congress came in, I think the following day, and passed what they call as a CR, a continuing resolution, to fund the government through the end of next month. So we may see another fight at the federal level coming up. I will leave it to the federal experts to let us know how that's going to work out. But what this fund does is that it provides $500 million of real money for the governor to use and implement and appropriate to affected agencies, industries, as he sees fits, with the kind of buy-in from legislative leadership. The governor has already allocated 70 million of that to cover the costs of the increases in premiums that are happening due to the lack of a federal ability to come to an agreement on healthcare. So that is so now there is $430 million. I think there's a lot of talks about how, what between the passage of 500, 5003 last year and Senate Bill 1, when does that money get to the providers? And I think what we'll probably be talking about in the coming weeks is there a way to help supplement this kind of gap that we're seeing as the ARPA funding that I think a lot of folks saw goes offline, and how do we kind of bridge this gap to when the endowment is ready to start distributing money? So that's kind of the kind of blend between our work and what happened in special. This coming session is really I think, going to have a big focus on healthcare. The governor recently hired or had a transition in his OPM sector, which is the Office of Policy and Management, which is a budget and policy arm of the governor's office. The OPM secretary, presents and lays out the governor's budget. This year is a short session, so what they will likely do is make any budget adjustments that they are seeing, federal cuts, etc. and the governor's office will present something along that line. There's a new OPM secretary. His name is Josh Wojcik. He comes from the comptroller's office, has a significant healthcare background, and based on that and some of the governor's early campaign advertisements, he seems pretty set on trying to do something on healthcare. What that looks like is kind of TBD at the moment. But as I think some folks have seen, the governor has also announced that he's running for re-election for a historic third term. He will be, I think, the second governor of the modern era to do this. Um, Obviously, the last one was John Rowland. That didn't really work out great. But we're seeing that, and then on the Republican side, Aaron Stewart, the mayor of New Britain, and Ryan Fazio, who's a state senator from Greenwich and Stanford, are the kind of the key leaders in the Republican primary that are going to be involved in that conversation. So, um, governor has unbelievably high approval ratings, as we've seen through polling that's been published. So, good luck to them in this race. Is he has nationally, he's one of the top five most popular governors. So he has a big case to make. But I think this year we're going to see a little bit of an adjustment in how he operates. I would imagine he's going to start distributing that $500 million. And I think our job this session is to make sure that childcare is at the table for that conversation. Um, but outside of that, I can't imagine there's going to be too much policy jiggering of childcare due to the kind of historic year that the space had last year. And then outside of that, I don't know, Natalie, if you want to kind of cover the vacancies that are in the legislature.
Yeah, so the mayor of New Britain, new mayor Bobby Sanchez, he had to retire from the state house. So there will be a special election very soon there. And then a representative from Norwich unfortunately passed away. So his seat is also vacant. And there will be a special election there as well. And I believe that the person running in Norwich is the first Native American representative in that area. Is that right, Liam?
Yeah, he was, I think, the first nominated by a major party in the state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so those are two special elections going on. Um, should I go into what next session is going to look like a little bit, or
Yeah.
so 2026 is a little bit different from last year. It's a short session, so what that means is that um it runs from February to May instead of January to June. So everything will be operating on a fast cycle next year. So when Eva or Danny or anyone else from the team reaches out to you for testimony, try to get back to them as soon as possible because things will be moving way faster than last year. So yeah, and that's pretty much all I have. I would just echo everything Liam said. And, we'll keep an eye on that 500 million to see what the governor is planning to do with that and go from there.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add is that, the both chambers continue to hold, the Democrats continue to hold super majorities in both chambers. And this, as was discussed, is an election year, so everyone is going to be on the ballot this fall, and some people who have primaries this summer in August. So I would imagine childcare is going to be a hotly contested and talked about issue in that process. I think anyone who voted for this bill is going to take full credit for it. So be ready to see that wave riding. Very excited to see that. And yeah, I'm seeing that it is a high likely scenario that Democrats maintain their supermajority going into this. Historically, you know, midterm elections go the other way on who's sitting in the Oval Office. That is regardless of which party is there. It's just kind of how history works itself out. But we will be there watching and monitoring, and we are open for questions.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Liam. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to raise a hand or place them in the chat and we will work on the answers.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A either, so I don't know. Maybe nobody has any, which awesome,
Well,
Liam. Awesome, Natalie.
can
You
I step
explained
in?
everything perfectly.
Can I say something? Okay, guys, I can see there's somebody put in Spanish a question saying, when you guys gonna be open more Head Start programs? When? And there is any chances? I can see that if somebody put that question in Spanish.
I think we're
Oh.
gonna forward that question on to Whitney, who they were on before Liam and Natalie. So that, unless Faith, you have anything else to add, but I don't want to. Yeah.
No, I know that we just wanted to let you guys know that, everyone know the policy committee is still finalizing our policy agenda. During our February meeting, we will review and start prepping folks for anything dealing with that. And it does look like there aren't any questions. So again, if there are questions after the fact and anyone has anything else they want to comment on or question on, you can feel free to leave it in the chat and we can let Liam or Natalie know later. So we do have a couple of minutes, and if we had a few extra minutes, we were going to want to have breakout rooms so people could collaborate and, have a conversation or any further comments or questions with each other, any updates that people have with each other. So if we could have about 2 or 3 minutes for a breakout room session. All righty. So folks, I hope you enjoyed your breakout rooms and that there was a good discussion. Brief, but I hope that you got to collaborate a little. In closing, you will see links in the chat for our website and our YouTube channel. So please check back if you would like a recap of anything that we discussed here tonight. And thank you folks so much again for coming. We will see you in February. Thank you to Louis Self for providing language justice and to Child Care for Connecticut for the tech support. I hope everyone has a happy and restful holiday. Thank you so much, everyone.